What's going on, you guys? This is New York Adventurer 1994 here, and it is Wednesday, October 26, 2022. And I know I should have done a video on this yesterday, but apparently I had other stuff to focus on. So I'm going to talk about the 5th anniversary of us going to Great Wolf Lodge in Pittsburgh back in October of 2017. By telling you guys the throwback story of it all happening. So it's the 5th anniversary of me going to Great Wolf Lodge in Pittsburgh in October 2017, and I left from October 25th till October 28th, and this was actually the longest I've been in Pennsylvania before. So this is my longest Pennsylvania trip yet that I want to share with you guys. So it all started out when we were just gonna go straight to Pittsburgh, and we booked the trip back in April 2017, and then back in August 2017, like 4 months later, like 2 months before we left, my aunt actually surprised us by booking Great Wolf Lodge like the day before I was supposed to go to Pittsburgh in October. So that means going to Great Wolf Lodge and then the next day continuing to drive to Pittsburgh. Okay, so let's talk about the week when we left for Pittsburgh. So it all started out on October 23rd 2017, that Monday, and I actually went to a Rangers game like 2 days before I left for Pittsburgh. I went to a Rangers game 2 days before I left for Pennsylvania, and they lost 4-1 to the San Jose Sharks. And this was the 2017-18 season, and I was in 11th grade this year, so yeah, the Rangers were looking pretty bad that year, that they actually lost to the game I went to. They lost 4-1 to the San Jose Sharks like 2 days before I left for Pennsylvania, which was the game I went to 2 days before I left for Pennsylvania. And then the next day, the 24th, it was like raining the day before I left for Pennsylvania. And then Wednesday, the 25th, I left for Great Wolf Lodge at like 11 in the morning, and I got there about like 1:30 in the afternoon, and I met my cousin there and my aunt and uncle, and we played in the water park for a few hours, and then after a few hours in the water park we had Burger King for dinner, like pick up the food and ate back in the room. We picked up the food about like 6 o'clock at night, and then we went to the arcade for a few hours with my cousin, and then the next morning we played in the water park again for like 2 hours, and I said goodbye to my brothers because they decided to go back to New York and stay with my aunt for a few days while I went to Pittsburgh. So I was like the only one out of my brothers that went to Pittsburgh. So my brothers went back to New York with my cousin, and I went to Pittsburgh with my parents. And my brothers didn't want to be a part of the long drive we were supposed to do. And I can't blame them. It was a long drive to Pittsburgh. We left about like 11:30 in the morning, and we got there about like 5 in the afternoon. It took about like 5.5 hours for us to get there, to get to Pittsburgh. Even because we made one stop on the way too. So yeah, we started heading to Pittsburgh about like 11:30. And it was a pretty big drive. It took us about like 5.5 hours to get there. And this goes to show how big Pennsylvania really is. But to tell you the truth, I didn't really mind it whatsoever. And we also brought some Disney movies with us, like Mary Poppins or Lilo and Stitch, like all those movies with us. And I watched them in the car on the way to Pittsburgh. So it wasn't all that terrible. I didn't mind that long drive to Pittsburgh, despite how long Pennsylvania really is. There was a lot of stuff we were passing by. We also passed by the State College too on the way to Pittsburgh. And believe it or not, I actually think we passed by New York Prepper's area, because he now lives in PA. And believe it or not, now that New York Prepper lives in PA, I think we actually passed by his neighborhood, considering us driving to Pittsburgh, since he now lives in PA. And back in 2017, he was living in upstate at the time, but now he lives in PA, and I really think we passed by his area in PA while heading to Pittsburgh, believe it or not. I mean, he's been in PA like ever since 2021. And I now think we probably passed by his area in PA. So we got to Pittsburgh about like 5 in the afternoon, and the sun was starting to set. Oh, wait a minute, it was still daylight, because the more west you go, the later the sunset and the later the sunrise. So we got to Pittsburgh about like 5 in the afternoon. And we had like one stop we had to make before getting there, and we checked into this place called the Green Tree or Doubletree in Pittsburgh. Yeah, we also crossed over a bridge, and we actually saw the Steelers Stadium on the right hand side from us. And we actually drove past the city part of Pittsburgh when we arrived. And we went through this tunnel, and then we got to our hotel. I think it was the Doubletree or the Green Tree we stayed in at Pittsburgh. And that night we had Arby's for dinner. And then we went to bed. And then the next morning we had Denny's for breakfast, and my dad actually had a tattoo to get. That was actually the whole reason why we went to Pittsburgh, is because my dad had a tattoo to get over there. So after we had Denny's, we dropped my dad off at the tattoo place, and me and my mom went exploring through the city. We actually saw a movie called Geostorm, which was pretty awesome, and then we walked around the malls for a little bit, and we had dinner at this place called Burglatory, which is a really good burger restaurant. So yeah, we did a lot of stuff in Pittsburgh, but not so much that my brothers would enjoy it. My brothers were having fun with my aunt while I was in Pittsburgh, and they were hanging out with my cousin too. And my dad didn't finish his tattoo until like 4 in the morning. And then, so he didn't really get much sleep. And then we woke up at like 9:30 in the morning. And then we decided to pass by the Pittsburgh Penguins arena. And we went home. Yeah, we actually decided to look at the Pittsburgh Penguins arena before we headed home. So we did that, and then we started our long trip home. It actually took us 8.5 hours to get home because of all the stops we made and everything. And once again, Pennsylvania is a pretty massive state, so it took us quite a while to get us home. And we also passed by Harrisburg too. And then we went to the southern part of New Jersey, and we worked our way up north back into New York City, and then we were back home in Long Island at like 6:30 at night. It was like 9:30 or 10 o'clock we headed home. And we got home about like 6 o'clock at night. It took us that long, considering that Pennsylvania is a long state, and we made a few stops on the way back. And then the next morning, we had this nor'easter combined with a tropical storm, which was Philippe. We actually had a tropical storm the next day, and it was actually Sandy's 5th anniversary that year. So we actually had a tropical storm on October 29th of 2017, which was Sandy's 5th anniversary, and it was Tropical Storm Philippe, and it was combined with a nor'easter, and it also rapidly intensified into a bomb cyclone. So it was like raining all day the next day once we got home. And then at 10:30 at night, we had these wind gusts up to like 60 to 70 miles per hour, almost at hurricane strength. Thank goodness we still had power. I mean, so yeah. And my brothers got home that morning before the worst of it too, thank goodness. Believe it or not, I remember the Giants and Alabama Crimson Tide having a bye week that week. And my brothers actually got home like that Sunday morning when we had the tropical storm in our area. So it was like raining all day, and we had like these strong wind gusts at night. We almost had hurricane winds in our area. And I remember northern New England. I remember way up north that a lot of people had no power after the storm. After Tropical Storm Philippe, which was a nor'easter and a bomb cyclone too. So yeah, this was a crazy storm for us when we got back from Pittsburgh. It happened the day we just got back from Pittsburgh. It happened on Sandy's 5th anniversary. We had heavy rain and high winds on Sandy's 5th anniversary, and Sandy's 10th anniversary is coming up this Saturday, and I promised you guys that I'm going to make a video on that. And I can't believe it's been 5 years already since I left for Pittsburgh. Gee, how the time flies. So yeah, I had a great time in Pennsylvania, and I guess that's it. Bye.